How do I want to start? It's like,
However you want.
however I want.
Don't be nervous. It's fine.
All right. I'm not going to be nervous. It'll come. It washes away. It's just part of it, right?
It does. Yeah.
Being that you're literally my second person I've ever
really?
Yeah. Like totally.
You'll do great.
So, all right, here we go.
I talk a lot, so you'll be fine.
Great. So do I. So we're going to be like two peas in a pod. I love it.
That's right. It'll be great.
I love it. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back for another interview. I feel so blessed and privileged to be here today with Serena from the Carnivore Revolution YouTube channel. I am just feeling like I am on kind of like a crusade to help families just be healthier and to really get real knowledge about nutrition and helping not just the parents, but the children. These are the next generation of, beautiful people. And I just think it's so important to get out just the knowledge, and it's not that hard. We just have to want it, right? Just to be healthier, to, serve the world, serve others. So I want to reach out to other people and see their successes and also their struggles, because it's a real thing, right? And so thank you so much for coming on and allowing me to ask you some questions, to just see what your perspective is like. You've had I've been following you for a little while now, and you've hit some really great milestones. So Serena, can you share with me a little bit about yourself, your family? You and your family, like, how are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 4 kids and we homeschool. We homeschool half of them. The other 2 are grown, but we have a 22-year-old daughter, a 20-year-old son, a 16-year-old daughter, and a 14-year-old daughter. They're all even at the same time, and they're all out at the same time. So that makes it a little bit easier to keep track of things. And they are not carnivores. None of them are. The 2 youngest ones, the 14 and 16-year-olds, I do try to steer them in a low carb direction, but it's hard. I feel like I wish I had started earlier with them. If I had started earlier, it would be a lot easier for me to get them on a healthy path. But at their ages, I try not to buy junk food for the house, but they are going to have to learn on their own, just like my older kids have learned. They're going to have to learn that eating healthier and eating better and not eating, the garbagey snacks is going to help them with their health. Volleyball season is starting and they're already talking about how they need to clean up their diets. And so at least they know. Absolutely. And they know what's right. And and I don't feel like, and we'll talk more about this later, but I don't feel like everybody needs to be a carnivore. That's just not what I think needs to happen. I don't think everybody in the world needs to be a carnivore, but I do think everybody needs to be low carb and give up the processed foods. And so hopefully that's the journey that my kids are, going to take now. But as far as I go, I started carnivore 2 years ago. So that's one of the milestones that you mentioned. My carniversary was Wednesday. So it was 2 years for me. So 730 days as of Wednesday. So today's day 732 of eating just animal products. And I love it. And I love the way I feel. I come from a long history of eating disorders. I was bulimic for about 20 years. And even once that stopped, the binging continued. And instead of purging, I was starving myself. I was punishing myself. I was juicing for long periods of time to undo the damage, and then just creating more damage by doing that. I just didn't know it at the time. I would eat nothing but raw foods for a week because I had had a binge. I would eat nothing but cabbage soup, that cabbage and tomato soup, that diet. Oh my gosh, it's so horrible. But I would punish myself by doing things like that. So it's definitely not a good relationship with food. The weekend that I decided to become a carnivore. So my 50th birthday was this past Monday. It's been a crazy week for me because I finished 75 hard. I had my birthday the next day, and then my carniversary 2 days later. So it's been a very eventful week for me. But the weekend that I decided to start carnivore was following my birthday 2 years ago. And my daughters have a gluten-free baking business, and they make the best cupcakes you've ever had in your life. They sell at the farmer's market. And they've done that. This would have been their 6th season, but they decided not to do it this year. They're still taking special orders and things like that. But anyway, so they said, "Do you want us to make you cupcakes?" And I said, "Yes." And double the batch. Like, that's where I was, like, double the batch. And there's 6 of us in the house, and not everybody even likes cupcakes. You know what I mean? But my oldest daughter doesn't even really eat sugar very much. She's not like a cake person. My son doesn't really care for it. He's not gluten-free. And so if he can have real cake, he's not going to eat, the gluten-free cupcakes. But, I knew he probably wasn't going to eat any. And basically 4 of us were going to have a cupcake, but I asked him to double it. That's 24 cupcakes. And they made the cupcakes on a Saturday. And between Saturday and Sunday, I ate 20 cupcakes in 36 hours. And Monday morning, I woke up and I was just miserable. And I thought, I have got to do something. I can't keep doing this. And decided that I was going to cut out sugar and, like refined carbohydrates. And I had this weird post-COVID issue where things taste and smell rotten. So I already couldn't eat fruits and vegetables because they smelled and tasted like a skunk. It's just this horrible post-COVID thing. I still have it. Wow. Things like peanut butter, garlic, onion, popcorn. When I smell those things, they smell like skunk. So a lot of times I don't know what I'm smelling, and I'll have to say to somebody, "What is that I'm smelling?" But then it was much worse than it is right now. There were so many things that I couldn't even be in the same room as. Like, I would have to leave and go out to our camper while somebody was cooking eggs for a while. And so anyway, I woke up that Monday morning and I thought, if I'm not going to eat sugar and carbohydrates anymore, and I can't eat fruits and vegetables, what does that leave me? And it was like, I could eat a hamburger fresh off the grill, but I couldn't put it in the refrigerator and then reheat it the next day because it tasted and smelled like skunk. There's this weird chemical reaction, I guess. And I could eat like a New York strip, but it had to be fresh off the grill. And those were literally the 2 things that I could eat. I had to cook. I had to grill every day because I couldn't put them in the refrigerator and then reheat them. It was so weird. And so that's how it started. So I was laying out in the sun. We had gone running. It was a Monday morning and I was laying out in the sun the day after my 48th birthday or 2 days after my 48th birthday. And I just thought, how am I going to do this? And so I just started Googling it. Like, what happens if you just eat all meat? Like, what does this mean? What is this? Is this a thing? It's like keto on steroids.
It's so extreme, right? You're like, literally,
it's so extreme. Yeah, that's right. And of course I found the Joe Rogan video with John Baker. And then I found Kelly Hogan and Laura Spath. And I just became like engrossed in these videos and podcasts and things like that. And I just submerged myself into this life for about 2 weeks. I just did nothing but eat meat and listen to these videos or watch these videos. I was just completely shocked by the things that I was seeing and the things that I was hearing, and that this was even possible, much less healthy. Like, I just had such a hard time.
It is so shocking. Like, when my husband and I were diving into it, his journey was he was having extremely high blood pressure. Like, you need to go to the hospital, and like very bad, like feeling pain, like shooting up in the back of his head and stuff. And he's like, we grew up in families where unless you're dying, you don't go to the doctor, and we're going to discipline ourselves in every possible way first before we're going to go to the doctor and, do stuff. Yeah. So he's like, let's find a natural way. But then, so he jumped into it a week before me. And then I just did it with him for solidarity. And it's like transformed my life, because I didn't think I knew I was addicted to carbs and sugar, but I didn't think I really had a problem. Like, I'm a dance teacher. I homeschool my kids. I am physically active. I'm really thin, right? Like, I'm fine. Well, I realized there was a lot of things that were not fine, like not good. But when you start diving into those videos, you can't believe the transformations these people have gone through because they're only eating animal-based products, or they're just keto, right? Like super clean keto. And it's shocking. It blows your mind. And once you're tired of being sick and tired, like you just go for it. So you went extreme, right? Especially with your COVID, and the smell. I can't imagine. I am so sorry, for one, that you are even now still going through that. I'm glad to hear that it's, clearing up a bit. But so you pretty much went lion, right? Lion diet.
Yeah, but I didn't know that's what it was, and I had no choice is what happened. And those were the only 2 things that I could eat at the time. And it took weeks before I could even add eggs in. And I do still have that problem with lots of different foods. But what was happening was I was depressed and I was crying all the time. It had been 2 months of basically eating cupcakes. Like we would go to the farmer's market and they would bring home all the stuff that didn't sell. And I was basically surviving on that. So I was gaining weight, and then I was fasting or not eating for a couple of days or not eating much to lose what I had gained, but I was gaining weight. There was no doubt I was gaining weight from it. And I was miserable. I mean, you can't survive on cupcakes and strawberry cake and gluten-free brownies and not feel
and your
sick.
blood sugar was probably like up and down and
constantly, right? Yeah, I was miserable and I knew I had to do something about it. So it was extreme for me, kind of like you said, like your husband with the super high blood pressure, like you got to do something and you got to do something right now. So I had to go cold turkey. I had to stop what I was doing. It was just crazy madness that was happening. And I didn't have like a keto flu or anything, or if I did, I didn't notice it because I was already in a zombie-like state from eating the way I was eating. And up until that point, I was still trying new things every day. I was trying some new supplement I saw online to fix this smell and taste issue. And then I was crying because it didn't work when other people said that it worked. I was researching that all the time because I didn't know what carnivore was at that point. I had done a 5-day water fast to try to fix it. I had done a 2-week juice fast to try to fix it. And the 5-day water fast worked. All my smell and taste came back on day 4.
Oh, wow.
But I went on to day 5, just like I said I would, and had the best cup of coffee I had ever had in my life because it was the first time it tasted like coffee, in 6 months or something, because I had COVID and didn't really have taste and smell. It was very muted for 3 months. And then this started like overnight. I woke up one day and I was like, what is that horrible smell? My husband said, I just made coffee. I said, it smells like a skunk. And then it was like for a couple of days, it kept getting worse. And I was like, what is happening? And so I had the best cup of coffee after a 5-day water fast and ate everything in the house that day because everything tasted and smelled wonderful. And then within 48 hours, it was back to the way it was. And I've done many fasts since then, not a whole 5 days. And it has come back a few times, but then it just reverts right back. It's like I have to, I don't know, stay on autophagy or I don't know, but I can't live fasted, for the rest of my life. So, so it is what it is. And sometimes it comes back. But I was miserable at the time. And there were so many things making me sad every day because I kept trying things like the kids would make popcorn and I would have a few bites and it would taste like skunk. And then I'd be sad. And then, like somebody would have the peanut butter out and I would say, let me smell that. And I would smell it and I would cry. It was like, it was one thing after another. So the immediate thing from going carnivore for me was I wasn't disappointed anymore. Like I was disappointed all the time because of the way things tasted and smelled. And it was affecting my life so much. We go roller skating a lot of times on Wednesday mornings for homeschool skate. And I could tell when they dropped fries, I would always wear a sweater and I would pull the sweater over my face and breathe through it for several minutes while I was skating to get rid of the smell. I would put essential oils on it and breathe that. Eventually I ended up with some little silicone nose rings that I can put on that you can't really see because they're clear.
Right.
And I would wear one of those with some oils on it. Like at basketball and volleyball games, we sell potatoes with chili on it and stuff. And people walk through the gym with that chili in a crock pot. And sometimes I think I'm going to die. Even still, it smells so bad. I had to leave the building before because of the smell. Even like this past season, I had to leave a couple of times because of the smell. So this is an ongoing thing. But the immediate consequence for me of going carnivore wasn't weight loss. It wasn't no achy joints. It wasn't brain fog lifting necessarily. Yeah. It was that I wasn't sad anymore because I knew I wasn't going to try the salad, or I wasn't going to try to make broccoli, or I wasn't going to make myself some juice that was going to taste like skunk. Or it was so that immediately lifted so much of my anxiety because I wasn't going to be trying those things anymore. And I wasn't sad all the time anymore. But it turns out part of the reason I wasn't sad anymore, I didn't know it at the time, was carnivore working its magic. And it was about 6 months into carnivore. I hadn't lost any weight. I actually gained weight in the beginning because I wasn't eating enough and I was fasting too much. But it was about 6 months in when I learned about the difference between an abstainer and a moderator. And it clicked for me. And I was like, oh my goodness, no wonder I can't have just one. I've never eaten one Oreo. Never in my whole life have I eaten one. I've never eaten just one cupcake. I mean, maybe when I was a kid. But as long as I can remember, I've had issues with those foods. And it's because I'm an abstainer. I can't have just one. I can't have just one chip or just one.
Yeah. Like I ordered eating. I mean, when I was in middle school and the early years of high school, I had eating disorders as well. I would go back and forth between purging and starving. And I just, for myself, I knew it was wrong. You know, the shame and like the guilt that comes with that. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And the Lord liberated me from that. And so, but you still have the mental stuff that goes along with that, right?
It's hard.
Even if you didn't have like what I would kind of call like traditional disordered eating, like you and I have or had, you know, it can swing the other way, right? Just like taking in. And yeah, like you said, you're an abstainer or you're a moderator, and like people truly can't moderate, you know, like you can't tell an alcoholic that they need to moderate their drinking. I was the same as you. Like the kids would have birthday parties and we would have cupcakes and there would be cupcakes left over. And my husband, I would live like you. I mean, maybe not quite in the amount, right? Like you said, like you ate like 24 cupcakes like in a day or something, but I would eat 6 cupcakes. There would be 6 cupcakes sitting there left over, and I would eat all of them throughout the course of the whole day. And my husband would come home from work and say, "Where did the cupcakes go? I didn't get any." I said, "I have to have them out of the house."
Yeah.
Because if they're here, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And let me stop you for a minute.
Yeah.
Let me stop you for a minute and just say that I think for so many people, when they picture somebody who's binge eating, it's this big fat person, this big overweight person surrounded by Coca-Cola and candy and chips. And like, you can picture what that image looks like, right? And shoving things into their mouth. That is not always what binge eating looks like. So I think it's important to note, if you have ever eaten an entire bag of potato chips in one sitting, that was a binge. So you don't have to self-proclaim that you have an eating disorder or call yourself a binge eater. But if you've ever eaten a whole bag of chocolates or a whole bag of potato chips or a whole bag of that chocolate drizzle popcorn from Sam's that I used to eat, the giant, if you've ever eaten one of those in one sitting, you are a binge eater, whether or not you want to describe yourself like that or use that as a term or say you have an eating disorder. You are a binge eater if you have ever done that. That's my opinion. I feel like that is what leads to all of the issues that I had. And so that image of somebody shoveling food in their mouth, it's not always like that. It can be as simple as leftover cupcakes in the kitchen, and you walk through the kitchen multiple times a day and pick up a cupcake and eat it. That is still a binge. If you eat 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 cupcakes.
Like every hour I ate a cupcake.
That's right.
You know, having chocolate covered raisins. I love, I still do. Just thinking about it, I'm like, oh. And
you can feel it, right? You can feel it in your mouth.
Feel it like, yeah. And you buy a bucket from Sam's Club, right? And I would all day long, I'm home with my kids, I would sneak into the pantry, dip my whole hand in there, shove a whole thing in my mouth. I'm chewing and I'm walking out. Let's go do math now, you guys. Like, here we go. You know, that is binge eating. You're just like, and the kids would be like, well, why can't I have any of that? And I would be like,
because they're mine. No,
I would be like, because they're mine and you didn't eat your lunch today. So you don't deserve. That's wrong. That's just wrong, you know? So I'm glad we talked about that, because that puts things in different perspective for myself, but as well as other people, because I don't think most people think they are binge eaters. You know, even like going out there, I think of like, you get like a big pretzel, right? Like my family always got like the big Bavarian pretzel. We live near Wisconsin. So it's like, you know, pretzels and cheese, man. And you know, some people in the family would stop and be like, oh, I'm full. You know, I have like a burger coming or whatever. But then others would be like, no, we need to eat it until it's gone, because we don't want to like waste the food or just, it tastes so good. You literally just can't stop, you know? And so, but I wanted to say, so you went carnivore, obviously you had a lot of stuff going on with your smell and taste and whatnot. Did you have any other symptoms of like detox? Like when my husband, he went cold turkey as well. He's always been like that. Like once he is ready to do something, it's like a light switch. I took 5 days transition in. So I really didn't have too much going on other than like the normal bathroom issues that you have when you're like fat acclimating yourself. And so
Yeah.
he had like debilitating headaches for 3 days and, some GI issues and stuff just because he was, oxalate dumping and all sorts of other things. Did you have anything like that?
I was surprised I didn't have a headache because I had keto flu in the past. I know what that feels like. And I didn't have that. And I don't know why. I was very surprised. And I didn't have a headache. I did have some GI issues, and those actually went on for me for months, off and on, mostly on. And then even after it went away, it would still come back. Sometimes now I don't ever have an issue anymore and haven't probably for close to a year. But I did have issues off and on for a long time. But other than that, I didn't really notice any symptoms. And I don't know if it was because it didn't matter. I wasn't going to quit because I couldn't, or if I just don't remember. I think I would remember, but I was so preoccupied with what else was going on with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was depressed about the smell and taste. I mean, that's something that can't be fixed. That's a brain issue. And my wires are mixed up and there's really no way to fix it. It just has to fix itself. And so that was really depressing to me. The more research I did on that, the more depressed I got. And then once I started doing research on carnivore, I just felt so encouraged. And I don't know if carnivore has like actually helped that. I think it probably has, but there's no way to know what would have happened if I wasn't carnivore. But one thing's for sure is I would not be where I am today. I would not be the person I am today. I would not feel like I feel today. And I would not be as healthy as I am today, for sure.
That's awesome. Do you find it difficult, or maybe in the beginning, maybe not now, you're 2 years in now. Do you find it difficult to live this carnivore lifestyle when the rest of your family doesn't?
I don't. And I think the difference for me with this is that carnivore fixed my brain. I've never stuck with anything for this long. And I'm confident. I think what happens is you start something like this. And this is what I tell people, like people who are just starting. I say, don't look at it like, I can't believe I have to eat this way for a month. Like, don't set yourself a 30-day goal or a year-long goal or say, I'm going to have to eat like this for the rest of my life. Look at today. Start with breakfast, lunch, and dinner today, 3 meals. And at the end of the day, look back and say, I did it, and feel encouraged and empowered. And then tomorrow, wake up and say, I can do today, and then do it again. It's like an alcoholic. It's one day at a time. It really is like an alcoholic. And so I didn't have a problem then, and I don't have a problem now because I'm determined and I know that this works for me and it makes me feel good. And honestly, I don't know what would happen if I took a bite of a gluten-free cupcake, for instance, or something. I don't know what would happen if I did that. I don't know if it would make me want more. I'm assuming that it would, but I'm just not messing with it. You know what I mean? Like, I look at what everybody else is eating and they'll offer me a bite or say, oh, you need to try this. And so far I have just said no. Now, my friend Karen Miles has said, and I heard her, she's one of the first people I found. And one of the first things I ever heard her say was, and it might've been within an interview with Kelly Hogan, I'm not sure, but she said, if one of her grandkids makes a cookie and brings it to her and says, Grandma, try this, she's not going to say no. She's going to take a bite of that cookie. And I would like to think that I am at the point now, or will be at some point, where my daughter, who just got married, makes something and then says, Mom, taste this. And I'll be able to taste it.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying with that. You don't want to, sorry, my dog is barking.
It's okay. You can let him in if you want.
Yeah. Should we let Max in?
Yeah.
Max. Here he comes. Okay.
Hi, Max.
Hi, Max. He, if someone walks by, he does his thing, but, so, right. Like, you don't want to show a lack of grace, right? If your grandchild brings you a cookie, I also don't think you should live in fear either. There has to be a balance there. Now, as you mentioned, your kids don't eat carnivore. They were already teenagers pretty much, they were teenagers or grown adults when you decided to take part in this journey. Do they see the value in your eating? And do you think they would, if they had to at some point in their life, make a lifestyle change like this for their own health? Do you think they would do it?
Yeah, I think they see the value in it for me. Okay. I don't think they see the value in it for them yet. Now, my oldest daughter, who just got married, she and her husband do keto quite a bit. he actually lost quite a bit of weight doing keto and exercising, and she lost some weight exercising. She says keto doesn't really work for her. I think I think with keto, there's this balance between eating too many fruits and vegetables or eating the right amount. And she loves fruits and vegetables. So that's a little bit harder for her. Our oldest son just really isn't interested in that yet. Now, our younger girls, they hear me talk about it a lot more because they're both home a lot more than the other two are. And so they hear me talk about it and they see the value for me and they hear the health benefits. But because it's been ingrained in them, 7 a day, the colorway, because that's what I taught them. I used to give them worksheets in school. I used to teach PE, our homeschool PE class. And that was one of the things I taught the kids. I gave them coloring sheets to take home and color all the fruits and vegetables, So just like it's hard for us as adults to understand that those aren't the best foods for us, that we thought that they were, and they're not, it's hard for them. And so sometimes they'll be eating blueberries or something. My husband will say, why are you buying them junk food? It's like become this joke in our house, right? And the truth is, I would obviously rather they eat blueberries than goldfish, right? So if I have to make a choice.
Exactly. My kids eat fruit. We try to stick in the berry family because it has less sugar and things like that. Now, if they have an orange, it's fine. If they have on an apple, it's fine. We just kind of have been steering away from buying those.
Yes.
But yeah, and like you were saying, like the moderation thing, right? With your daughter, she saw the benefits of going keto, but she found it harder. Like the things you have to unlearn. That's what was so shocking with me. My oldest is only 10. She's going to be 10 soon. And I said, I wish I knew what I knew now earlier, because it's always going to be easier to start them young, right? But we don't want to discourage parents that maybe have teenagers or middle schoolers from just talking about it. And how does this make you feel? What I feel like you kind of have to start, maybe you can give me your opinion. If you have an older child and let's say you're like, the whole family's going to do it, right? We're all going keto or we're all going carnivore or whatever. You kind of have to detox a little bit, I feel, before you can say, let's eat some toast or something crazy like that.
Right.
To see how that makes you feel inside.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I do believe, even if you just want to be keto, I think everybody should go carnivore for 30 days and then add things back in one at a time so you can see which things affect you, because you might realize that broccoli really does bloat you and make you not feel good. And you don't like broccoli anyway, but you eat it because you think it's good for you. And then you might realize that that's something that actually isn't good for you and you can do fine without it. So my kids, at one point we read this book called The Perfect Health Diet by Paul Jaminet, I think is how you say his name. He's a molecular scientist, and so is his wife. And they went at the food approach on a molecular level and what our cells need. Now, it does advocate for lots of vegetables, not as many fruits, but lots of vegetables. He doesn't mention oxalates or anything like that in the book, I don't think. We need to go back and look at it again. But the macros were basically like 50% fat, 30% protein, 20% carbs, I think is what the macros were. And so we read this book, we believed in it. We did this for a couple of years when our oldest two were probably the age that our younger two are now. And we were out of town with my husband for work for the entire summer. And it was really easy to stick to because we were gone. We didn't have interactions with other people that were going to get in the way. We didn't have family gatherings or anything like that. We were completely on our own.
Sabotage. That is a real thing.
That's right. It is.
You need to pay attention to that and fight the urge. That is real.
That's right. It is. It absolutely is. And the one thing that we allowed was, so we were in Maine, and ice cream is a big thing in Maine. Like some places like Seattle, there's a coffee place on every corner. In Maine, there's an ice cream stand on every corner. And so we worked ice cream into our macros. So we made sure that we saved room in our carbs for ice cream. And so we made sure we always had ice cream in the cabin, and everybody got to have ice cream at night. That was how we made everybody stick with, and we bought the most natural ice cream we could find, but that's how we made everybody stick with it. And they gave up gluten, they gave up other grains, they gave up so many things to do this with us for like 3 months, and everybody felt great. And it worked out really well. Now, do I feel better on carnivore? Yes. I've lost weight better on carnivore. I feel better eating like this than I ever have, even at 50 years old. So my point though, was that my kids did stick with it, but it was only because there was ice cream in it for them. You know what I mean? Like if I did that now with them and wasn't going to allow the ice cream, I don't think that they would do it. But the younger two definitely want to eat better than they do. And like I said, with volleyball starting, they are already talking about cleaning up their diets a little bit and stuff. So they do it when they need to. And so I think they do understand the importance of it, you know, to some degree. And my hope, obviously, is that at some point they will give up all of the processed foods and the sugar. And I don't think that's out of the question. I think they probably will make that kind of a change at some point.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I totally agree. Just trying to take the processed foods out, you know, the perimeter of the grocery store. You know, if you want fruits and vegetables, I have no judgment. I have no judgment just in general. I'm just trying to get the facts out there. And if you want a better quality of life, and I thought just when you ate pizza, you always felt sluggish, bloated, and gross afterwards. I thought that was just like literally the human condition. Like, this is just what it's like to be human and to eat food. Like, I didn't know that's not the way you're supposed to feel. And just always needing that 3:00 cup of coffee because your energy is just dying. And I really did nothing all day. And I understand, like, a body in motion stays in motion and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I really didn't do that much today, but yet I feel like I need to take a nap at 3:00. I don't have that problem anymore. It's just, there's such a better way of feeling and living. It's just, I just really want to like get that out there. And I know people don't want to struggle. No one does, right? As humans, we run away from things that make us feel bad or hurt us or whatever. But I always say, nothing worth doing is easy. And if you can just like push through the first month, 2 months or whatever, like there is light at the end of the tunnel. A girlfriend of mine, as we're going to go off on a tangent for a hot second, she decided to go lion. Like, we used to work at the salon together. Her name is also Kim. So if she watches this, like, Kim, I'm talking about you. She found me on YouTube and she's like, Kim, she sent me a message. I didn't know you were on YouTube. This is amazing. I've been researching the carnivore diet. And, you know, she's had a lot of issues with like her gut health and her mental health and migraines and all sorts of things. Right. And she's like, I'm going to go lion. And I was like, well, if you need support, I am here for you. And so I just reached out to her this morning. I was thinking about her and I said, hey, how has it been going? She's been doing it for a month or two. And she understands that she has a lot of healing to do. And, but her quality of life has significantly improved in the last month or two. She's like, I've lost a little weight. She used to be in like this trial for migraines. And since going lion, like her migraines have gotten so, like, she has way less. She just has noticed all these positive changes just in this very short amount of time. And I mean, she took it as extreme as possible. For those that don't know what lion is, it's salt, water, and meat. That's all the lion diet is.
And not just any meat, it's ruminant animals.
Thank you.
Like,
okay, I didn't know that.
Lamb and beef, like you can't have chicken or pork or bacon or anything like that. This is like serious. And for me, I did lion in January and I don't like lamb. There are other animals too. It's just ruminant animals. And I don't like lamb or any of the, I don't eat animals that aren't like normal. I eat like beef, chicken, and pork and some seafood. Right. I just can't get into that. Eating, you know, like different kinds of foods. I'm just like, normal stuff is all I'll eat. And I just can't do it. So I just did beef for the month of January. So I did beef salt water for the entire month of January, which included beef fat and some tallow, but basically just beef products with no seasonings or anything like that. And it's not easy. But you can't have like,
was that really hard for you?
It was hard. I mean, there were some days that were harder than others. If I ate too many ground beef bars, like just made in the air fryer, like I couldn't get them down. But a burger fresh off the grill always went down. Like that was fine. And a ribeye was always fine, you know, so whatever.
Right. No, that's awesome. But him experienced in just like a month or 2 months, just a significant improvement. And so I was just her biggest cheerleader. I was like, for one, I'm so proud of you. I said, but this also just shows that immense amount of change that you've already had in such a short amount of time. This tells you now that it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better for you. And then she was feeling guilty because she had a sweet or something, like she ate, and she's like, I had a sweet like over the weekend, and now she was kind of like beating herself up about it. She said, for one, it didn't taste as good as she thought it was going to taste. And sorry, my eyelash here. Hold on a hot second. Something's poking my eyeball out. Okay. So for one, she thought it didn't, the sweet didn't taste very good. And then she said it messed up her stomach, for a while after that. And I said, well, think of the positive, right? I'm always glass half full. Like, we got to stay positive. The world just brings you down so bad. I'm like, lift it up. And so I said, your body gave you like some great knowledge right there that that now when you eat this is what's going to happen, where before you were eating that probably quite often and you didn't realize how it was affecting you in a negative way. So that was really cool for her. And I was just so happy for her. But what kind of
that's wonderful.
Yes, it is. What kind of is there any carnivore recipe, because your Carnivore Revolution channel has so many recipes on it, and I am really looking forward to trying several of them for my daughter's birthday. I'm going to try to do a carnivore. I'm going to let her choose her cake. Like if she wants a cake, or she wants like a keto cheesecake, or she whatever, we're going to do that for her birthday. But the food that's served, like, I'm just going to be like, this is the way our family eats. Here's the spread, right? And so is there any favorite carnivore recipes that your family just loves? Like, woo, I'm so glad mom's carnivore. She makes this. I'm coming over for dinner every time she makes this.
Yes. They love the meat and cheese casserole. So it's kind of a different version of Kelly Hogan's meat and cheese casserole. And what I do is it's super easy. You can use the same pot for the whole thing. I take, so you can always, double it or triple it or whatever, depending on how much you want. So it's basically a pound of multiple different kinds of meat. I usually use diced chicken cut up into little cubes, and ground beef and sausage. And I just cook it all together, get it all cooked, drain it, and then add in a brick of cream cheese per type of meat. So like if I use 3 pounds of meat, I would use 2 or 3 cubes of, packages of 8 ounces of cream cheese. I mean, it depends on how much cream cheese you like, because it can get too cheesy. So I just kind of mess with it. Like, you're going to have to make it once and decide how you like it. So I would use like 2 bricks of cream cheese probably with that. And then I do about a cup of shredded cheese and just mix it all together in that same pot and just let it get really good and melted. And then use about a cup of heavy cream to mix in there and let it cook down a little bit. And then if you want it to look pretty because you're going somewhere, so you would either put like a cup or 2 of bacon bits in it now, if you're just going to keep it at home and keep it in this pot and put it in the refrigerator and scoop stuff out to eat, that's all you have to do. But if you want it to look pretty because you're taking it somewhere, I would mix some bacon bits in it. And then I would put it in a baking dish, like a 9x11 pan, and sprinkle cheese on top and sprinkle bacon bits on top. Or you can lay whole slices of almost cooked bacon on top, and then put it in the oven for about 10 minutes and let it get brown on top. Is the best meal you will ever eat. I take that to every holiday. When we go places, I take that to every holiday. And I have made a keto cheesecake, and I have eaten just a little bit of it. I've sweetened it with something like monk fruit sweetener, just because if I'm taking it somewhere, I'm not going to take it unsweetened. So I do take it like that. And those are always a big hit. And sometimes I'll have a little slice while we're there, but it's very rare that I do that just because of the sweetener.
Right. I'm thinking about changing the sweetener I use. I use xylitol. So it does taste exactly like sugar, but I found that some of my family who's eaten our family keto cheesecake, their GI can't handle it.
Yes. Whereas I used to use xylitol.
No problem for some crazy reason. My husband, my kids, myself, we can eat xylitol and we have no problem with it. And then like the rest of our family, like they have bathroom problems, and they'll even say on the back of the bag, like it could cause bathroom problems. But I don't know if it's like, cause we carnivore or, keto, we don't really have an issue. And then they have a standard American diet that they can't, but I have no idea. But that sounds absolutely delicious. And I'm always looking for like another thing to bring. I always make my sausage cream cheese meatballs.
Oh, yes.
Those are delicious in a crock pot. And then I'll bring those places as well.
Nice.
So that sounds excellent. I'm going to make that.
So good.
So good. And anything with cream cheese.
Yes.
That was really helpful. Did you find that helpful when you were craving sugar, like in the beginning of your journey? I would just like take a hunk of cream cheese and just eat it.
Yes.
It really, really helps with the cravings.
Yeah. Really cream cheese or butter or homemade eggnog is another one that is a great treat to have. If you can do dairy, homemade eggnog is another really great thing that you can make that'll kind of get you through those cravings.
That's good. That's good. What's your favorite part about the lifestyle? Like there's so come to know, right? We're going to hit our 1-year anniversary in August for my husband and I. But there's such a strong sense of community in the carnivore space. As a mother of 3, the simplicity, I always hated the word. I used to loathe it. What's for dinner? My husband would ask me every day, what's for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know because I don't care. And
I know.
I would menu plan and then it would be a lot easier. But I never was a big dinner eater. I never was. Like I always like ate really heavy during the day. And then I kind of did the European thing, right? Where like you eat a heavy lunch and then you just kind of trickle off and not do much for dinner. But my husband, he owns a landscaping company. He is out and doing stuff. And he's like meat. He used meat and potatoes. And now like the idea of potatoes is like loathsome for him. Well, he still likes it, but he won't eat it at all.
Yeah.
But you know, it was always like meat. And at the time, I was a vegetarian when I met him. Like, no, for real. I was a vegetarian because I saw this horrifying movie in school. It was just the mistreatment of animals is all it really was. And I was like, I can't. And that was the only reason why I chose to be vegetarian. And I just loved cookies. I loved bread. I loved pasta. I loved all these things. I was like, well, there's so much other stuff I can eat. Who cares if I went vegetarian? Right? And then that also fed into that disordered eating when I was younger and, you know, that kind of thing. And it's just a vicious cycle. But the healing, like, people, the camaraderie of your healing, the strong sense of community and cheering you on, simplicity. What has been your favorite part of like the carnivore lifestyle?
Yeah. You mentioned 2 of them. The 2 top things for me would be the simplicity and the community. I mean, I have made some really, really great friends in the carnivore community, people that I can reach out to, even when I'm just having a personal problem, people who I don't feel like judge me for anything, people who I can just talk to. But the simplicity, I was vegan. I was vegetarian. I used to meal plan. We have 4 kids. You know, I remember being at like basketball practice when they were little and combing through the internet to find recipes. And I would use the calendar on my phone. I guess at the time I didn't have a smartphone. So I had an iPad at the time. It was my first, might even have been a Kindle at one point, that Kindle Fire when it first came out. And I would comb through the internet and I would find recipes and I would copy the link and paste it into my calendar and make the title of that the event, you know, whatever I was making that day. And I would do that a month in advance. And then I would go grocery shopping every week. And I would have this whole list of ingredients that I had to buy. And then I had 4 small kids and I was trying to, you know, make this dinner and follow this recipe every night. Now we throw some steaks on the grill. And if my girls, they're usually the only ones that are here for dinner unless we've planned a family dinner and everybody else is coming. I mean, my son still lives at home, but he's not always home for dinner. He works full time. And but if they want something to go with their meat, they will just make it, you know, they will make some vegetables or they will get the blueberries out to have with their steak or like an all natural organic macaroni and cheese if they wanted a gluten-free macaroni and cheese, or, you know, they will get that out and they will make that if they want that to go with their meat. But they do have to eat some of the meat we're making. You know, that's just kind of a rule. They have to eat some of what we're making and then they can have whatever they want. But the simplicity of being able to just throw some burgers on the grill or throw some steak on the grill or some salmon in the air fryer or, you know, whatever, it just, and then the cleanup is done in just a few minutes. Then, I mean, you can't trade the simplicity. I used to make, when I was vegan and vegetarian and even just normal meals for my family, I would cut vegetables up for an hour before it was time to eat. You know, I mean, I would cut and cut and cut and prepare and have, 3 different pots going on the stove all at the same time. And then the cleanup dinner was like a 3-hour process. Now it takes, like 30 minutes, an hour tops, depending on what I'm making, right. Even including the cleanup and the prep, like it's just so much easier than it has ever been in my whole life. So I think if I had to pick just one of those, it would be the simplicity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean me, because my kids they don't have any money. Like, they're not out there buying. We were at the store yesterday and they were having this massive sale on organic strawberries. And I mean, they were like really ripe, right? Like some of them were even molded. So I'm like, we're looking at these containers, making sure they're not molded or whatever. Cause I was like, oh my goodness, $2 for 2 things of strawberries, organic ones. I was like, we're buying, so about like six containers. I said, we're freezing them tonight. Like we just need to freeze them. And if you guys want a little something, we got it. And then, we're set. But it took me 35 minutes, like wash them, cutting them. I mean, and as I was sitting there, I was listening. I have to be a multitasker, as parents. Hello, I'm listening to a book while I'm cutting my strawberries, and the kids are out doing what they're doing. And I was just, as I was reflecting while I'm obviously not listening to my book because I'm listening to my own thoughts, I was just like, I haven't done this in so long, like prepping. And then you have all these ingredients in your house. And then it takes you an hour, 2 hours unless you're like an Instapot queen, which I don't own one. I own many crock pots and I used to try to do things that way. But yeah, the simplicity, I don't care what's for dinner anymore because it's always going to be a ribeye out, or I'm going to be making some burger patties or, flank it, whatever, like the normal stuff that's going to take me 30 minutes to 45 minutes and everyone's going to be satisfied. I have to ask, it just popped in my head. In the beginning, did any of like your family or your friends, or maybe just like whatever, were they like, this is it? Like, it's a steak. Is this like no sides? Like they just thought it was.
Well, yeah, we don't have company for dinner very often. We see our family on holidays and things like that. We do have friends that have come over, and I will make meat with a side of meat. I will make a hamburger with a side of bacon, or we'll do hamburger and steak or something like that. But if we have friends coming over, they know to bring whatever they want. Like if they want buns, they bring them. If they want tomato for their burger, typically they bring them and we just cut them up. Or, I don't mind to buy that stuff. If we're having company and we're providing the food, I will go to the store and buy some tomatoes and cut them up. I don't care if they want to eat those things, that's fine. But I don't eat them, and I'll buy chips, for the party or whatever. And as far as friends go, like when we're out, like everybody at our volleyball and basketball, they know how I eat at this point. I was quiet about it at first. But as people started talking about it, I just kind of went with it. But it's really funny because I don't talk about it with family at all. We don't talk about it at family gatherings. I bring the meat and cheese casserole and I eat that and nobody asks and I don't tell,
Yep.
So that's it. It doesn't really come up with family. I think if there was somebody in our family that was like super sick, I think, that I would have to say something, but I don't think they would believe me. I don't think they would listen anyway. So we can't save everybody.
Prophet, like no one listens to a prophet, like in their own, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think, what's that phrase? Like, you believe people that you like have no relationship with, but like, like a close family member, they're like, yeah, no thanks.
But then if somebody else will say it to them 6 months later and they're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Right. So I've asked this question to other people before. Do you have support from extended family? I know your kids are older. Like, do you have any issues with criticism from other family members or anything like that? Because that's a big factor. Like that can really wear people down.
I don't. My brother lives, 900 miles away or something, and we talk. Several times a year, birthdays, holidays, and other times, we talk to each other. But we don't have a whole lot in common. He doesn't have children. He's 10 years older than me, doesn't have children. And, so we just have different lifestyles. We just honestly, and it's terrible. I tell my kids all the time, this is unacceptable. You guys are going to talk to each other. You guys are going to be friends. Like, but it's partially because I moved away. I moved away when I was 20. He moved out when I was 10, so our life has been a lot different and been separated for a really long time, but we do talk, but he's pretty sick. He had, I guess what they call a mini heart attack, like 8 years ago, maybe. And I see pictures of him and he looks really inflamed. Like some of the pictures, I'm not sure I would recognize him if I walked past him at a park or something. He looks very inflamed. And I mentioned to him in October one day, we were texting back and forth, and I mentioned to him the way I was eating and that it's really helped me, and, blood pressure, how good it is for blood pressure and for all these other things. And he basically, so he's on the DASH diet and has been for years because of his heart. Wow. And he said, I'm already so sick and I'm doing everything the doctors told me. Or why would I try something you read about on the internet? And I said, but isn't that the real question? Is why are you so sick if you're already doing everything they're telling you? Like he is very disciplined. Like, yeah, he follows. If the doctors tell him to do something, he is going to do it. He's a rule follower. And so he does, a little bit of olive oil, but most of his food is fat-free, lots of fish, no red meat. I mean, he is like very, very strict, and he's super sick all the time and super inflamed and doesn't feel good and is tired and doesn't exercise. And it just breaks my heart. And so that was my cue to stop talking when he said, why would I believe something you read on the internet? I didn't send him anything. I didn't bombard him. I hope to see him at some point this year. I haven't seen him in probably 9 years. But I hope to go visit sometime this year and see him, and maybe the way I feel, will speak for itself. I don't know. But we can't save everybody. And that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. Do you own I'm sorry about that. That's sad.
Yeah.
Do you own Dr. Sean Baker's book, the Carnivore?
I don't have Sean Baker's. I do have Dr. Berry's book and multiple other. I'm not a paper book reader. I do audiobooks all the time.
Me too.
So,
me too. Yeah. I do own Ken. We own, my husband and I, because Ken Berry has started it all for us, right? Yeah. When my husband was looking into the natural ways to lower his high blood pressure, we prayed about it, and then we started doing research, and we never even heard of this man before. And then started watching his content, and it changed our life. We own 3 copies of his paper book and audio, because we lend the book out to anyone who wants it. We don't push it on people. We're just like, this book started our journey. This book saved our lives. I can link it below. It's Lies My Doctor Told Me by Barry. We have it on audio as well. I've listened to it twice because I can get through audio way more than paper books. I love to be surrounded by paper books. I own hundreds of books, but to get through a book, I don't know about you. I know once again, we're going off a little tangent, but I start books and then it's a struggle to finish them. But I can always finish an audiobook. And then when we bought Sean Baker's book, right in the beginning of that journey as well. And that one was excellent and a very easy read. We got the audio of Paul Sanadino's Carnivore Code. That one was really good. We listened to that it's long. That book is long. We listened to it on a trip to Nebraska for a wedding, and we skipped several chapters because it's so thorough. He goes through every food and how carcinogen.
I've heard that.
Actually, it was a little, for us, it was a little too detailed. So we were skipping a few chapters to just finish that one. But if you are really into the science and all that stuff, the Carnivore Code was very, very detailed.
Yeah, I've heard that's a good one.
But as far as your brother, I'm thinking there are doctors that eat this way. There are proven MDs that have debunked the quote unquote science, right, of this nutrition that mainstream doctors push on people that aren't making them healthier. So I struggle.
But there are many, many more doctors, mainstream doctors. There's a doctor on every corner who would strongly advise against this. And so that's what he will see, is that this is not normal. This is not, there's no proof, probably wouldn't matter. Even if I sent him a book or a podcast or a video or something, it probably wouldn't matter.
And we all have those kind of people in our lives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all right. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit because this is the question I get the most from my friends, people at co-op, just random people that somehow my dietary choices shows up. Cause I'm like an open book and like, things.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
I have no problem talking to strangers.
Yeah.
So,
me too.
Has your grocery bill gone up because you're only eating meat? That's the biggest question I get all the time.
No, they
eat more than my three little kids.
Yeah. No, because my son and my daughter don't really eat our food anymore. I mean, they eat when we have a cookout and stuff like that. But even before she got married, she was not here a lot in the evenings. And she was gone a lot during the day. She's a full-time real estate agent. She just moved out last month, but she wasn't home very much to eat with us. And then when she was going to the grocery store and just buying the stuff she wanted. And she would eat dinner with us sometimes or eat my leftovers, the next day if she was here. And our son doesn't eat breakfast and he's gone for lunch and dinner. So he's, basically buying his own food usually because he works full time. And then the other two, they don't eat a ton, you know what I mean? They're girls, they don't eat a ton, but I don't think our grocery budget, our bill has gone up. I think it's probably stayed about the same because we are still buying those extra things, but most people, their grocery bill goes down. Now, one of the reasons people's grocery bills go up is because they insist on the grass-fed and the organic and all of that stuff. And I don't believe that that's necessary. And I think if you tell somebody that they have to go grass-fed and organic, it's a deal breaker because of the cost. It's just like if you tell people they have to give up coffee, it's a deal breaker. Many, many people aren't going to try it because if you tell them they have to give up coffee, they're going to say, oh, there's no way I'm giving up my coffee. Forget it. So I say, keep the coffee and don't eat grass-fed organic meat. At least not in the beginning until this is working for you. And then if you want to up your game a little bit, that's fine. But, and if you can afford it, then that's great. But I keep my grocery budget low. Like the other day, my birthday was Monday and I wanted prime rib. So I went to the store and I got a prime rib and put it in the oven. Prime rib is so easy to make. Easy to make. And so I wanted that in the oven. And so I put that in the oven and it was like $100 for this prime rib that I bought for our house, for our family and stuff. And I said to my husband, we'll eat the Aldi ground beef for the rest of the week to make up for it. So the Aldi ground beef is super cheap. It has gone up like 75 cents a pound in the last like 3 or 4 months, which is super disappointing. But I think I paid like $3.45 a pound the other day for the 7327, which is my favorite because it has so much fat in it. And so we save money by doing that. And we'll eat that meat for, 4 or 5 days a week for dinner. And so I think that helps our grocery bill a little bit, is just going with the cheaper ground beef. The higher fat one is always cheaper because they think people don't want that. They make the leaner ones more expensive, which is ridiculous. And so if you buy the higher fat one, you get to save money. And it's usually cheaper at every grocery store. The higher fat one is always cheaper.
Oh, that's a great hack. Mm-hmm. I found with our family, we no longer eat any processed food. I guess if you call the pork rinds that my kids are now obsessed with processed food. Okay. So, but our pantry used to be packed, right? Like we had granola bars, like all the things, fruit snack, the pouches of applesauce, like all the things. And that was 90% of my cart when I went to the store was the aisles. I hardly ever shopped we did the perimeter, but it was, some milk or, whatever. And we didn't even drink milk. So, so we actually, because we weren't sure, we actually upped our grocery budget just because we just didn't know. Right. So it was like, we were going to allocate like $1,000 a month in food, like whether that's going to eat out or get the grocery, whatever. And we're just going to see, we definitely do not spend $1,000 a month. We easily spend $600 to $700 a month in food. We have 3 kids, but it's literally eggs, yogurt, a little bit of fruit, and then just boatloads of meat. And my kids eat less. So we're spending the same in food, depending, right? If there's a birthday party or a holiday and we're cooking all the food, of course it's going to go up, but my pantry's completely empty now. It stores appliances that I no longer use. pans
I get
and
it.
all sorts of things that we no longer use that so I don't find it, eggs, at least in the States. I've been talking to a few Australian women, and like the price of meat and eggs and butter and stuff is like skyrocketing in Australia.
Yeah.
No idea why. I don't know all the stuff about them, but butter has come down here. We use Kerrygold. And then, eggs have come down significantly, and we buy our meat. Well, we get a cow, and, and then we'll get like our ground beef and stuff. But when we run out, because you can only get a cow so often, we go to Costco. Right. Or Sam's Club. I don't do Costco, but we do a Sam's Club. And so, we buy the huge ribeye, and we'll get like 15 to 18 steaks out of that. And, all the ground beef and whatnot. We eat mostly beef. It's just what our family likes the most. Our kids are on a chicken kick right now, which is great, because if the money was an issue, chicken is a very budget friendly food, and we coat it with pork rind crumbs, and it's phenomenal. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that's the most common question women worry about. Like, is the grocery budget going to be crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can keep it not crazy if you want to. That's certainly not a reason to not do it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you homeschool, which I think is awesome. Have you been doing it a long time?
Yeah, our kids have never been to school until the older two went to college. Yeah, we homeschooled from the very beginning.
Woo, that's so exciting. That gives me such encouragement. I totally plan on, my kids have never seen the inside of a classroom either. And except my own, when I taught dance, like they were part of my classes. But no, that's super encouraging, because I do plan to do it all the way through. And I love that. To hear that. Do you think being on the carnivore diet and homeschooling made it easier, because you're not going into the workplace socializing with other people in their lunches, and then they come in with donuts and share it with the office and the whole thing? Do you think because you are a stay-at-home mother with your children, doing your little side hustles, that made it easier for you to stay on track?
Honestly, I think it's probably about the same, because we do have basketball and or volleyball 4 nights a week during the season. And so we're with other people all the time, and we're always stopping at a restaurant, like a fast food place or something, on the way home for a snack with the whole team. So I'm always with, 3-4 nights a week, I'm with people ordering regular foods off a menu, eating French fries, so I'm with other people all the time. So it's probably honestly about the same for me. But once I got going and knew how I felt, there was no turning back for me. There was no way I was going to just fall into that and give in to, the junk foods and things.
Okay. Yeah. My husband's the same way. He's like, there's just like no desire to, pick that fry off the plate and eat it. Like, why would I do that? I mean, he loves beer. Like, we went out to dinner the other day, and he's like, oh, I really want a beer right now, but I'm not going to have one, because he's so close to his goal, and he's stalled a bit. And he's just, I'm so proud of him. He's just so disciplined, and they come from different places, right? Because he's coming from, he had a health issue and he wanted to lose some weight, though the weight was not the issue, but he's lost 50 pounds in under a year, and he has 10 pounds to go. And I came from what I thought was a non-issue. Well, I knew I was addicted to carbs and sugar, but it's just, it is what it is. But so you didn't think it was easier being at home or not at home, because you do travel, you're out of the house, you're doing these sports, you're doing all these things. That makes sense. So when you, what's your favorite thing to order at a fast food restaurant? Or do you have a favorite fast food restaurant that you order from when you have to do that?
It's very rare. But when I have to do that, if I have a choice, I will either pick Wendy's and get the Baconator without the bun, or I will go to Five Guys and get the bacon cheeseburger.
Okay. I took the kids the other day because we were gone out of the house all day. Like I had errands. Like I was like, we have to go here, 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 here. No school today. Like we were just like, we're going to live life. This is your education. This is what we got.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so, when we were starving and I knew, I got a new car and we don't eat in mama's new car anymore. Like, water, that is it. Like Josh would kill me if I let them, like, I don't even care if it's like a jerky stick, like you're not eating it in my car. And so we went to McDonald's and we got their 1/4 pound beef, 100% beef patties. We got the processed cheese on it, like whatever, it is what it is. And the kids are like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This tastes better than the stuff you make at home. And
I call it plastic cheese.
Novelty. We're sitting inside on a greasy, gross table and you're eating all the plastic forks. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I call it plastic cheese. I'm like, every now and then you got to have the plastic cheese on your burger from Wendy's. You know what I mean? Like, right. But I did find out recently that Wendy's actually has other kinds of cheese. I haven't tried it yet, but my understanding is they actually have like provolone and Munster. So next time I'm going to try that.
Munster is 0 carbs. So if
good.
That's one of my favorite cheeses. So creamy.
Yeah, me too.
I love it.
Me too.
Okay. So I've loved this conversation. Thank you. My last question on my list, so I stay on track. And I've loved our little rabbit trails here, is if you could offer any type of encouragement to anyone that's wanting to dabble in keto or carnivore or anything like that, or just trying to improve their kids' eating habits, what would you offer them? Especially because you come from the perspective of older kids, where I'm coming from the perspective of younger kids. What kind of advice or encouragement would you offer them?
I think it would be to remember your why, because that's so important and it sounds so cliche, but remember your why and really sit down and look at yourself and your body and decide if you're healthy and you're happy. And I was not, and I didn't know it. And so I think it's just so important to give yourself, like, you're worth it. Whatever your issue is, you are worth this. So give it 30 days, promise yourself you'll do 30 days. And if you mess up, you start the 30 days over, kind of like with 75 hard. Like, I just think it's so important to give yourself that time and see what happens. You owe that to yourself. You owe that 30 days to yourself to see how you feel at the end of this. And just know that it's hard. It's hard for everybody. And it honestly is like being an alcoholic. And so if you have food issues, and even if you don't think you do, you probably do, because you're going to have keto flu, you're going to have withdrawals, and you're going to feel like an alcoholic or a drug addict feels when they go off of those things. And so just remember that. And you would never give an alcoholic a little bit of alcohol. Like you said earlier, you would never give a drug addict a little bit of heroin to make them feel better when they're going through that withdrawal process. So give yourself that 30 days. And when it's hard, do what I said earlier. Look at it like, I'm going to do this today, or take it one meal at a time if you have to. I know people that have to do it one meal at a time, but give yourself today and say, today I'm going to give myself this gift. And even if I don't feel great at the end of the day because I'm going through withdrawals, I'm going to give myself this gift today and get through breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And at the end of the day, say, I did it. And then wake up the next morning and say, I'm going to do it again today. And you might have to take it day by day, one day at a time, like an alcoholic, and see how it goes and see how you feel. But if you give yourself that 30 days, you will be amazed. And even if you don't decide to stick with carnivore, you'll know that you can add things back in, like one at a time, and see how you feel. And you'll know what it feels like to feel good, because most people don't already know what that feels like. So at the end of 30 days, you'll know how it feels to feel good. And then you get to decide, do you want to go back to feeling like garbage, or do you want to continue to feel well? And everybody has to make that choice at some point. And if you don't try, you are deciding to continue the way you are going. And so if you don't feel good, if you have autoimmune diseases, if you have any other kind of issues like achy joints or a sore back, or muscles that don't get better after you exercise, that they don't really like ever bounce back after you exercise, if you get really sore after workouts, if you aren't feeling like you think you should feel, or aren't feeling optimal, you are choosing that. You are choosing that over taking refined carbohydrates, seed oils, and sugar out of your diet. And if you're choosing that, then that's on you. Get out of your own way. I mean, that's what I tell people sometimes, is you're in the way. You're in the way of yourself. When people say to me, I could never do what you're doing, it's just too hard, or it's not worth it, you're in your own way. If you're not willing to do that for yourself, then you're the one standing in the way. You're the only one that can make that choice. And if you just do it for 30 days, you will know. You will know whether or not you feel better. And to the people who have done it, who have done keto or carnivore and come off of it and gone back to feeling like garbage, why don't you just go back to doing it? If you know that's what works for you, look at those other foods and know that you are addicted to those foods and those foods are controlling you. And the only way you can let it go is to let those foods go. And if you know that that's what's happening, sure, the cake tastes good, the homemade bread tastes good, the muffins, the cookies, that all taste good, but it's got a hold on you. And if you can't let it go, you are addicted, and you are the one that has to take control and say, I'm going to give this to myself. I'm going to give myself the 30 days. Just do it.
I love that. I love that. And you're coming from such a great place. 2 years carnivore. You're down, is it 75 pounds?
No, 35.
35 pounds. You probably look like a skeleton if you were down 75 pounds. Sorry about that.
Well, I'd weigh like 80 pounds or something. That would be too little.
No, thank you. Thank you. That, I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people because, getting out of your own way, anything worth doing is going to be hard. And on the other side of that, you're going to be stronger mentally, physically, emotionally. And that's like the big message we want to get out, right? It isn't like, you have to eat meat and like it, it's just, there's a better way of living. And our culture just surrounds, and I don't know, because I have come from a place of disordered eating and whatnot, but our world just revolves around food. And I'm not judging people who are chefs or, they're bakers and all these things. They make it's like art, right?
Right.
I just, I don't know, like, do you eat to live or do you live to eat? And what kind of control that really spoke to me, what you said, like, is this controlling you? Does this dictate the decisions that you make, or how you spend your time?
And if you can say to somebody, I could never do what you're doing, even if the person that you're saying it to is really healthy, then that's a problem. That means the food has a hold on you, because nothing should be more important than your health. Nothing should be more important than how you feel. Nothing should be more important than the fuel you put in your car, right? If I go put diesel in my Ford Expedition, it's not going to run, right? If you fill your body with seed oils and processed foods and sugar, your body isn't going to run right. And that is clear. That is obvious. That is a fact. And so whatever you have to do to make your body run right and be optimal is what we should be doing.
I love that. All right. Well, on that note, thank you so very much for coming on. And, I'm still a rookie at all this interviewing stuff, and I really appreciate your patience and your grace in that. And I'm going to link all of your information below. The Carnivore Revolution is your YouTube channel, and I'll put your Instagram in there and any other stuff that we can throw down there. We're going to throw down there because we just want to help people, right? You and I and all the other carnivore people, keto people, like, we just want to share the amazement of, because if you feel great, you're going to do great things in your life. You're going to have more energy, your family, your friends, your activities, your faith, all the things. Right. And so, and that's all we want for people. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Anytime.